Twin front discs, upside down shower forks for better handling and less brake dive, more low down torque with Euro 5 and new engine mounts for reduced vibrations. Does the 2022 Honda CB500X address the niggles that pushed me to sell my 2019? If it does, I think I might be tempted to buy one again. Welcome back to the Algarve. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the CB500X. I owned this 2019 model and made what turned out to be one of my more successful long-term video reviews on the channel, with over 350,000 views. Link in the top right corner now and in the description for an in-depth look into CBX ownership experience. I think the main reason for this was the fact that the 500X is such a popular bike all around the world. And for that reason, I'm also putting this video out in French. Donc je vous invite à passer à la version française si cela vous dit. Now, despite its many qualities, I ended up selling my bike primarily because of the lack of power, which admittedly I could have foreseen, the overly soft suspension, particularly at the front, the mediocre braking from the single front disc, and perhaps worst of all, the annoying vibrations above about 110 kilometers an hour, 65 miles an hour. So, I was curious 6 months ago when I was given the opportunity to try the updated 2021 model. See the link to the video if you're interested in that. But it turned out to be a somewhat half-hearted update from Honda. It felt pretty much exactly the same as my 2019. When I saw the specs of this 2022 model, however, I was keen to give the bike another chance. New forks, twin discs, and new engine mounts. All was looking good. But given the shortage of, well, just about everything at the moment, dealers are hanging on to any new bikes they can get and not putting out many demonstrators. But as luck would have it, a friend of mine has just bought this 2022 CB500X and very kindly allowed me to take it out to see how it compares with previous iterations. As you might expect, aesthetic changes are minimal, but I think the overall result of Honda's tweaking is a more grown-up look than on previous model years. It's probably those beefier forks and brakes up front, but the bike looks and feels a bit more substantial, almost as if it's gained another 200cc. I like this new shade of camouflage green. It goes nicely with the gold highlights and suits the bike well. Red and black are also available, but the white has been ditched, which is a pity because I thought it looked good. The graphics are a bit nicer than on my 2019 too. Unintimidating though, and that's what I've always liked about the CB500X. Despite being relatively tall and ever so slightly top heavy, it's a very easy bike to live with. Comfortable seat, nice, narrow towards the front end to get your feet down more easily. The bars fall nicely to hand, and the lofty riding position allows you to dominate urban traffic. Two immediate disappointments as I sat on the bike. The windscreen is adjustable but only with a tool, and it's a fiddly process, so there's no way you can do it while on the move. And the clock is the same comprehensive but very difficult to read LCD screen, carried over from many other bikes in the Honda lineup, including the Grom. They must know it's not very good because if you look at how it's represented in the marketing shots, it looks fine, doesn't it? Super bright, super legible, but in reality, when you're out in the sunshine, you can barely see what's being displayed. So, to the all-important question, what is the new CB500X like to ride? Well, in a word, it's a revelation. I gave this away a bit in the thumbnail, I suppose, but Honda have nailed it with this version. The improvements to the front end have completely transformed the bike. No longer is it all soft and wallowy in the bends or under braking. The upside-down shower forks perform so much better than the old ones. They're not adjustable, but really don't need to be. I really can't overstate how different the bike is to ride. It feels confident, comfortable, and expensive, whereas previous generations felt a bit basic and cheap. The ride is so much plusher, and combined with the new twin disc setup, braking is strong and no longer involves exaggerated front-end dive. Easy to say now, I guess, but this is how the CB500X should have been from the outset. A wonderfully comfortable and planted bike. It's a massive improvement, so well done Honda. The second front disc provides much needed improvement to the braking. There's more bite, more control, and, well, just more braking. Pity Honda didn't or couldn't give the X the same radially mounted calipers that now come on the 500R and the F. I imagine this is something to do with the forks or possibly the 19-inch front wheel, but overall, braking performance is still significantly better than on previous generations of the X, at least those that I've tried. Fueling also seems a lot better despite now being a Euro 5 engine, which often makes things worse as manufacturers have the engines run leaner to reduce emissions and fuel consumption. But the engineers seem to have done a really good job here, because I could detect little or none of the jerkiness at slow speeds that I had on my 2019. The only other major gripe I had with my bike a couple of years ago was the vibration, buzziness through the seat, the foot pegs and the bars, especially above 65 miles an hour, 110 kilometers an hour. Now, this was my friend's brand new bike with only about 200 kilometers on the clock, so I wasn't going to test what it was like at high revs. But from what I could tell at medium speeds, the new engine mounts seem to have a positive effect. There is still vibration there, but it's no worse than on other bikes. My 2019 was a lot worse, though the crash bars I fitted to mine probably didn't help, as they can resonate at certain frequencies. So the good and the bad, and am I tempted to buy one? Honda have addressed most of the key problems: much better suspension, much better forks, and much better brakes. The comfort's still there: light controls, manageable size and weight, compliant seat, natural riding position, and generally less jerkiness at low speeds. Costs have barely changed, same price more or less, same power, so same insurance, same service intervals, and same fuel consumption. As I said, I couldn't really test the vibration issue at higher revs as this was a brand new bike, but it did seem appreciably better at medium speeds. The fit and finish is still typically Honda, excellent, especially given the competitive price, and they've even managed to keep the popping exhaust sound on overrun. Power is still, well, only 48 horsepower of course, but Honda couldn't do much about that if they wanted to stay A2 license friendly. As I said 2 years ago, a CB650X with about 70 horsepower would really hit the sweet spot. And that may well be coming in a few months in the form of the new Transalp, fingers crossed on that one. Pity we still don't get tool-free adjustment of the windscreen, and the clock design is still 5 years behind everyone else, but perhaps that was the least of my gripes. So let's see how these changes affect the RocketScore. First of all, looks. Well, changes are limited to paint schemes and some relatively understated graphics. No adventure bikes are particularly good looking in my books, but it's not an especially ugly bike, so the same 5 out of 10 as the 2019. Quality, an extra point here for the shower forks and the twin front brake discs, so up from 6 to 7 out of 10. Engine, another extra point over the 2019, same power unfortunately, but slightly better fueling and a little bit more torque low down, so up from 4 to 5 out of 10. Handling is better thanks to the beefier front forks, but it's still no sports bike, and a 19-inch front wheel will never give you the nimbleness of a 17, but it's definitely an improvement over previous generations and deserves an extra point, so up again from 4 to 5 out of 10. Comfort, this is one of the bike's ace cards, very accessible and easy to ride, a good riding position, plenty of legroom for taller riders, a comfy seat, and now better suspension, so up from 7 to 8 out of 10. The brakes are much more reassuring, much greater bite and overall stopping power from that second disc, so an easy extra 2 points here, up from 4 to 6. The commute, unchanged really, an excellent all-rounder, and if you sling a pair of panniers or God forbid a top box on the back, you'll get decent carrying capacity, economical and easy to use in traffic, but no change over the previous generation, so still an excellent 8 out of 10. Value, still great value, competitive purchase price and low running costs, no real change here either, so still 8 out of 10. Finally, the grin factor. Not really a dream machine, is it, and not the most fun bike on the market, but it was never designed to be. However, the much improved front end gives the bike a new lease of life and would, I suspect, make it more capable off-road, or at least for some green laning, so we'll bump it up from 3 to 4 out of 10. I imagine you've already guessed that all these extra points have had quite an impact on the ranking, and indeed they have. Up from 11th to 5th, which is an impressive but justified leap. The new front end has transformed the 500X from a competent but quite basic bike into one that I would quite happily take on day trips and short tours. At least if I were on my own, the modest 48 horsepower would probably have me looking for something with a little bit more oomph if I regularly took a passenger. So, am I tempted to buy one to complement the Speed Twin? Yeah, I am actually. I'd probably swap the OE tyres for some Michelin Road 5s for a bit of extra grip. I'm not really an off-roader. But other than that, I think the tweaks Honda have made for the 2022 have definitely made it a contender. The only thing or things that are holding me back at the moment are the imminent arrival of the Triumph Tiger 660, admittedly a couple of €1,000 more, but with more power and a better dash, and of course the Transalp that Honda have been teasing us with for a while now, and which could neatly fill the gap between this excellent little 500X and the very competent but very large and very expensive Africa Twin. I am going to buy a second bike ready for the spring, and it will almost certainly be one from last week's top 10 video, so check that out if you haven't already seen it. And as always, thanks for watching.